many people that came out and they were like, look, what the whole reason that we joined this MAGA movement, the whole reason that we thought Trump being in office was a good thing is because it would mean more good jobs for Americans. And look, if you genuinely believed that, then I don't. Yeah, I mean,
was repeatedly host Epstein at Mar-a-Lago, have him at his wedding, hang out with him at Victoria's Secret fashion shows, get listed as a passenger on his plane 8 times, joke with him at a party while pointing out hot women and saying something into his ear that got the most grotesque smile in the history of human expressions. Tell a reporter, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy, he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, and allegedly hosts a calendar girl competition where, other than the 24 or so women flown in to provide the entertainment, the only guests were him and Jeffrey Epstein.
Imagine walking into a comedy club expecting a few light jabs, only to witness a full-scale demolition of a public figure's ego. That's exactly what happened when Josh Johnson and John Oliver took on Donald Trump. What started as witty banter quickly transformed into a ruthless takedown that left audiences stunned. Trump didn't just get roasted, he got exposed. The jokes weren't random, they were calculated, cutting, and impossible to shake off. When humor is sharpened into a blade, the laughs don't just echo, they sting. And in this moment, Trump wasn't the master of his narrative anymore. He was the punchline, cornered on live TV with nowhere to hide.
So we are doing tariffs?
Damn right we are. I ain't scared.
Not even more expensive housing?
Tariffs are off.
Okay, but that will increase the trade deficit.
On again.
Well, what about the price of breakfast?
Off in the morning, on at night.
And some of the harshest criticism is actually coming from Trump's most fervent supporters. Even the QAnon shaman posted, this stupid piece of shit. What a fraud. And once you've lost dipshit Daniel Boone here, you are in trouble. And it's understandable why Trump's struggling to get even his own base to take his word for it that there is nothing to see here, because to do so, you essentially have to believe everything we've learned about Trump over the years is irrelevant or sheer coincidence, that all Trump...
Donald Trump built his image around being untouchable, someone beyond criticism, beyond accountability, and immune to mockery. But Johnson and Oliver shattered that illusion in front of millions. Comedy isn't just about jokes, it's about exposing what power tries to hide. Trump strutted onto the stage of public opinion thinking his armor was bulletproof, but the cracks were already showing. When laughter starts rolling, it does something no political opponent can achieve: it unravels the myth. And in this case, the myth of Trump's untouchability collapsed with every perfectly timed punchline. By the end, the man who branded himself as larger than life was reduced to a walking contradiction in the spotlight.
Trump knows Epstein so well. They were friends. Trump lived so close to Epstein in Florida that Epstein had to knock on his door and let him know he was on the sex offender registry. Like, that's how close they lived together. He knocked on the door, was like, hi, the court has ordered me to notify you that I'm in the area. I have been convicted of a few crimes, and I left my suit jacket over here last night, so... That's crazy.
Sarcasm can cut deeper than any speech, and Josh Johnson and John Oliver proved it. Their words weren't delivered with anger or outrage, they dripped with irony, wit, and a subtle venom that Trump couldn't defend against. Think about it, how do you argue with laughter? Every sarcastic remark highlighted Trump's contradictions in a way that was impossible to escape. Audiences weren't just laughing at jokes, they were laughing at the undeniable truth hiding behind those jokes. In that moment, sarcasm became more than humor. It became a weapon of accountability, carving away Trump's carefully constructed image until only the absurdity remained. And once the audience saw it, they couldn't unsee it.
Have to forget about Trump bragging about his ability to grab women's genitals and claiming he could go backstage at his beauty pageants while women were getting dressed, something he was accused of doing by 5 Miss Teen USA contestants, and once remarking of his own infant daughter Tiffany that she's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this yet, but time will tell. Beyond that, though, there's nothing there. Except for a jury finding him liable for sexual abuse, but other than that, there's nothing to see.
One comedian can land a punch. 2 working in perfect rhythm? That's a demolition crew. Josh Johnson's quiet, razor-sharp observations paired with John Oliver's researched sarcasm created a tag team unlike anything Trump had ever faced. It was the perfect balance. Johnson whispered truths that felt like inside jokes, while Oliver blasted contradictions wide open with evidence and satire. Together, they dismantled Trump's bravado layer by layer. Trump thrives on controlling the spotlight, but Johnson and Oliver flipped it, turning him into the unwilling star of a comedy act that millions couldn't stop watching. This wasn't two comedians riffing. It was a coordinated takedown disguised as laughter. And Trump was completely unprepared.
Don't care about Coke or Trump's health. Don't worry. He's got some true crime for you.
This morning, the Trump administration releasing more than 230,000 pages of records related to the assassination of civil rights icon Martin Luther King Jr.
That's how bad things are for Trump. His back is against the wall so hard, he's releasing more Black history.
MAGA movement promised strength, jobs, and pride. For Trump supporters, it was a vision of something bigger. But when Johnson and Oliver stepped in, they revealed the cracks that many refused to see. Comedy turned into a mirror, reflecting back the broken promises and contradictions. The slogans that once electrified rallies became setups for punchlines, and the leader who declared himself untouchable became the butt of relentless jokes. Nothing undercuts power faster than humor, and in this case, MAGA's champion was reduced to a caricature. From roaring chants to roaring laughter, the fall wasn't subtle. It was televised, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore. Trump wasn't leading anymore. He was being laughed at.
What happened? Is this crazy?
Yeah, it is crazy. It's really crazy. He's basically one sentence away from saying, I mean, you guys saw what I did, right? And you still voted for this? That doesn't make any sense. And I know being a shambling verbal mess is part of Trump's brand, but it is still incredible to see an incoming president ad-lib a victory speech with the same energy as a best man who didn't realise he had to give a toast. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful beauty. Today, my brother and his today they did the thing. You all saw it. I thought my part was done with the bachelor party, to be honest, but here we go. Marriage is crazy, right?
When Jeffrey Epstein's name enters any conversation, the room shifts. But when Johnson and Oliver tied Trump to Epstein with biting wit and brutal honesty, the shadow became impossible to escape. Trump once dismissed connections as irrelevant coincidences, but comedy doesn't forget, and neither do audiences. Through clever jokes and sharp storytelling, the comedians reminded everyone of the uncomfortable truths that politicians often bury. Humor made the scandal unforgettable. Every laugh was a reminder of what Trump wanted erased. And with each mention, Epstein's shadow stretched longer over Trump's carefully crafted image. For once, the laughter wasn't just entertainment. It was accountability, dragging old ghosts back into the light for everyone to see.
This might be the worst distraction because all he did was remind us that he can declassify thousands of secret files, and people noticed.
Bernice King, the daughter of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., posted this picture on social media with the caption that simply reads, "Now do the Epstein files."
Josh Johnson doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. His comedy slices like silent daggers, soft-spoken but lethal. Trump thrives on chaos, shouting, and spectacle, but Johnson countered with understatement that left deeper wounds than rage ever could. A single casual joke from Johnson reframed Trump not as a powerful leader, but as a clueless sitcom dad fumbling through his own narrative. The contrast was devastating. Audiences leaned in, laughing harder, not because Johnson was loud, but because his calmness made Trump's absurdity even louder. Silence, it turns out, can be the sharpest blade. And in Johnson's hands, that blade stripped away Trump's illusion of control, leaving only awkward contradictions exposed for all
Of Trump's tariffs. It's been an emotional roller coaster since Trump rolled them out last week with the help of the single dumbest chart in human history. That prompted the Dow to drop by nearly 4,000 points in 2 days. So by Monday, everyone was understandably freaking out, only for Trump to dismiss anyone concerned as panicans, which he said was a, quote, new party based on weak and stupid people. So I'd argue the weak and stupid demo is, if anything, way overrepresented in government right now.
John Oliver doesn't just tell jokes. He plants landmines of truth, carefully timed to explode when Trump least expects it. His satire works like a blueprint of evidence, walking audiences through the contradictions before detonating them with humor. Oliver's gift is exposing not just what Trump says, but how dangerous it really is beneath the bluster. It's comedy that doubles as investigation, every laugh followed by a gut punch of reality. Trump thrives on distraction, but Oliver thrives on receipts. And when those receipts are presented with sarcasm, there's no escape. The laughter isn't just mocking, it's a collective realization. Truth, once disguised as comedy, becomes undeniable, and Trump's spectacle crumbles under the weight.
Down as a yes? I'll be honest, I've never heard anybody plead anything other than the fifth before. But this guy's so guilty, he's calling out every amendment he can think of. Like, no, what's the one with the women voting? 19, throw that in too. Now, this video is dropping less than a day since we found out Pam Bondi reportedly warned Trump back in May that his name was in the files multiple times. And it just so happens her next appearance was scheduled last night at a summit against human trafficking.
Politics thrives on noise, spin, and spectacle. But comedy? Comedy slices through all of it. Johnson and Oliver didn't just make people laugh, they performed cultural surgery, cutting away Trump's myth piece by piece. Audiences who might ignore political arguments couldn't ignore the punchlines. Laughter created a shared understanding, a moment of clarity that no speech could match. Every joke was a scalpel, exposing lies and contradictions with precision. And unlike debates or news reports, comedy made the truth accessible, even entertaining. Trump wasn't just criticized, he was dissected on live TV. By the time the laughter ended, the image he fought to project wasn't just bruised. It was left wide open, bleeding credibility.
And they are all a correct reaction because look, we did a show like this after the election in 2016 when no one expected Trump to win. This time though, his winning felt like a real possibility all year long, lots of people mobilized to stop it, but it happened anyway, which feels somehow worse. You've probably seen people really struggling this week, and my sympathy goes out to all of them with one exception. And that is Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen. He'd claimed that he'd leave the country if Trump won, only to quickly walk that back post-election on a live stream where he got trolled by viewers in a very funny way.
Trump's ego is his armor. He thrives on being taken seriously, commanding attention, and demanding respect. But nothing deflates an ego faster than a well-timed joke. Johnson and Oliver didn't attack Trump with anger, they used laughter, the one force his ego couldn't withstand. Every time the audience erupted, Trump's image shrank. Because once you're the punchline, you can't be the hero anymore. The more he tried to project strength, the more ridiculous he looked in contrast to the jokes landing around him. The battle wasn't between politics and comedy, it was between ego and humor. And in this fight, the joke won. Loud applause turned into quiet realization. Trump had been stripped of his shield.
Jeffrey Epstein died back in 2019, but not since Tupac Shakur has a dead man dropped so many bangers. All right? Yesterday, video of the government questioning him back in 2010 started making the rounds, and you'll never guess whose name came up. Go ahead.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Facts can be spun. Arguments can be twisted. But laughter? Laughter is undeniable. Johnson and Oliver turned comedy into evidence, presenting Trump's contradictions not as dry bullet points, but as punchlines impossible to ignore. Each laugh was a verdict, each chuckle a ruling against the image Trump tried to sell. By reframing his scandals as jokes, they made them unforgettable. No amount of denial could erase the memory of audiences laughing at his words, his actions, his contradictions. When laughter becomes evidence, it does what no courtroom cross-examination can, it sticks in the public's mind. And once that happens, the case is closed. Trump didn't just lose the argument. He lost the room.
We've already talked about RFK, enemy to all animals, friend to all measles, and Trump's plans to let him go wild on medicines. You know, really get in there and mix things up, like a worm in a frontal cortex. But Elon Musk is on there too. One idea floated in the campaign's closing days was that he'd be appointed to cut waste out of the federal budget. Here he's at Madison Square Garden, hyping the plan with the co-chair of Trump's transition team.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Every powerful figure has a weakness. For Trump, it isn't policy, scandals, or even investigations. It's being laughed at. Johnson and Oliver hit where it hurts most: his need to be admired, respected, and feared. Instead, they turned him into a global joke, a walking contradiction whose speeches sounded like failed stand-up routines. For a man obsessed with image, humiliation is kryptonite. And comedy is the one battlefield where Trump has no defenses. He can argue with reporters, dismiss critics, even attack opponents, but he can't fight laughter. Once the world starts laughing, the myth collapses. That's why Johnson and Oliver's takedown wasn't just funny. It was devastating. Trump wasn't in control anymore. He was the joke.